Today's episode of Cultured Society is sponsored by Pretty Kitty Beauty, 100% natural skincare and CBD bath products for a softer, sweeter, healthier life.
On another bus ride, going back to prison. I've been thugging since a youngin' in and out the system. Yeah, my mama tried to warn me, but I didn't listen. Head up, 10 down, that's just how I'm living. On another bus ride, going back to prison. I've been thugging since a youngin' in and out the system. Yeah, my mama tried to warn me, but I didn't listen. Head up, 10 down, that's just how I'm living.
Can you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name is Sheena Egan.
Where are you from?
Okeechobee.
All right, so what can you tell us about yourself?
I'm a mother of one, and I own my own small business here in Okeechobee. Yeah.
Okay, so what led us down the trail that led us up the road?
I'm sorry, say it one more time.
I said, what led us down the path that led us up the road?
Okay. Wow. Cells. I had cells charged in 2014. So that ended me up in prison.
What kind of sales charges did you have?
Cells of methamphetamines, possession with intent to sell.
How long was you looking at?
How long was I looking at? I was looking at 7, and luckily I ended up with 2.5.
Okay.
Yes.
So what led you into getting into the sales game?
Well, for anybody that knows of Okeechobee, it's a pretty small town, and there's not really much here. I came originally from St. Petersburg, and so moving to a small town and getting mixed in with, getting mixed in with the wrong people is easy to do, I guess you could say. So I guess I just got mixed in with the wrong people. I was the last person to even try drugs or do drugs or anything, and then next thing I knew, I was selling them, and it went from one thing to the next. They caught on quick, and they got me.
What was some of the good stuff and some of the bad stuff you seen while you was doing what you was doing?
Some of the good stuff. I guess it depends on how you look at that. I don't really think there's anything good about it. But, even though doing what I was doing, I seemed to still try to help people along the way, because so many people get on these paths and have nowhere to go, nothing to eat, so on and so forth. So I tried to help as many as possible, even though I was doing what I was doing. And then, there's nothing, really good. Money, money comes and goes. And how many millionaires do you know that are, that sell dope, especially in Okeechobee? So I was basically also, I'm a single mother, and I was, to myself anyway, I was doing what I needed to do to get by at the time. And it's definitely the wrong choice. Some of the bad things, a lot of the bad things.
Okay.
There's, like I said, from people being homeless and just stealing. You can't let anybody in your house. You can't trust anybody. And there's just a lot of bad things. You see people go downhill really, really quickly, and it's sad. You think you're just getting a little bump here and there, and then next thing you know, they're on a needle, and then from a needle, they're losing their house and their car and whatever else, and they're giving it to you, for the next hit. And yeah, you're coming up, so you think, but you're destroying somebody else's life at the same time. So,
can you describe the night of your arrest?
Oh boy, can I describe it? Yeah. It's a nightmare I'll never forget. Actually, I was going to pick up dog food at Publix. And it was almost Easter time. And I remember the Dollar Tree putting out Easter stuff. And I decided to go there and look. And before I knew it, there's a cop in front of me and a cop behind me. I thought automatically they were thinking I was shoplifting or I was, doing something I wasn't supposed to. But no, they were grabbing my wallet and looking for marked money, and they were putting their hands behind my back and not letting me know why, and escorting me out the door in front of God and everybody, with the whole front entrance, blocked off. Like I was this huge, huge criminal, and to me, I was just pushing a little bit of dope, so to say. And yet, here I was, with all of these detectives and all of these cars and SUVs blocking me inside the Dollar Tree in little Okeechobee.
So what's going through your mind when you're on your way to county?
When I was going to county, at first was my charge.
Oh, you still had no idea?
No, I had no idea. They kept asking over and over again, and they told me I'd find out soon enough. I had been in a little bit of trouble previously to this, so but no, I had no drug charges. So on my way to county, they just talked a lot of shit, basically, like you're this big piece of shit, so on and so forth. And no reasoning why behind it, though, because still in the back of my head I'm thinking, like, what do they really even know? You know what I mean? Like, what is this about?
What the fuck?
How long were you in county before you found out what your charges were?
Not very long. For some reason, they processed my paperwork rather quickly to get me to the back. And at that point, I was able to see the cell charge and the possession of intent to sell. So there was 2 separate felonies, and not good felonies either. And I knew I was stuck, especially when I sent my bond. And besides my bond, I failed to mention this, I was on probation. So I knew I was stuck. And so yeah. And are you asking how long was I there just before the charge, or how long was I there before prison?
No, I was just asking how long you was there before you found out what your charges were. So you said you was on probation already.
Yes,
so is this still the first time you go to prison, or?
Yes, this is the first prison.
Okay. So now that you know that you're stuck and you're pretty much done for what's going through your mind?
Oh shit! What did I do? This is my daughter. Because my daughter was supposed to go to the store with me. Thank God she didn't. But then I was upset about that because I felt like I just left, So, and also, who was it? That was the next big question. And I just kept thinking, and it came to me pretty quickly, though. I mean, it didn't take too long, about 48 hours. I remember waking up out of a dead sleep, knowing who it was, from reading the police report over and over again, just recognizing the time of year, and what I would have been wearing and where it was at. And it came to me pretty quickly. And it was pretty wild.
How did you feel at that moment when you found out who did this to you and put you in this position?
I was upset and pissed. It was my best friend's dad, who had known me my almost entire life, from a completely different county. He didn't even live in Okeechobee County. So, with that being said, him knowing my daughter as well, and my whole family, and me spending many weekends at his house out of town, I felt betrayed and just not so good. It sucked really bad.
Okay, so from the 7 years you was looking at originally, how much time did we end up with?
Okay, so 2.5, and so I had set 24. 24 is what I ended up doing. It's 24 minutes.
Okay. So when we leave Okeechobee and we go into the reception, where we headed?
Ocala, FWRC, the Florida Women's Reception Center, which is directly across the street from Lowell.
What was that experience like? Your whole trip ride from county to your reception?
well, I had been in county for a while, so I was ready to get out of county. I had never been to prison, but at that point I was thinking anything is better than county, it has to be. So I had been there for about 8 months and I was ready to get the show on the road. So I remember being exhausted because not knowing when they were going to kick my bunk so I could go, but I wanted to go. It seems crazy, but I was ready to go. And it was me and one other female, and they said, pack it up, we're going. And it's like 4 o'clock or so in the morning, and load us up in a van, and don't tell us anything, of course, and then took us to Ocala. Wouldn't answer any questions or anything, you know. We're trying to prepare ourselves because neither of us had been to prison before. So, of course, we're like hoping for some kind of insight on something. But, yeah, nothing. They didn't say nothing really to us. And it's a long trip.
Walk me through you getting off the bus and walking into the reception center. Walk me through that step by step.
Yeah, fun stuff. So they are assholes. It's probably one of the worst parts of going to prison, I believe, is that first intake. Walking in, and I know it's their job to scare you up or whatever it may be, but it's completely different than county. At that point, you realize you were definitely not home, and yeah, they talk to you like an animal. You're not to make any eye contact. You are to really not, do or say anything unless told to do, or what they basically tell you what to say. Eyes constantly on the floor, and from there, they get your information, and then they basically make you strip down naked, search you, then put you in a freezing cold shower with a bunch of other females. You have no idea who they are, where they've been, what they have, name it, and then they take you to take a picture. They post on the website or whatever, and put your card, and and then you sit on the bench and you watch this ridiculous movie forever and ever until they call you for your vision test and blood work and all of that great stuff.
Did you see anybody refuse to strip down and all that stuff? I'm sure it makes you uncomfortable having to strip in front of these guards you don't know.
Absolutely.
Did anybody refuse to do so?
I felt more sorry for the ones that didn't speak English, that didn't really understand, especially if there was an officer there that, spoke their language. But they, I don't know, nobody really refused. Everybody was pretty nervous, I think. There was the ones that had been there quite a few times and kind of tried to direct us, the ones that hadn't been there, on what to do, and basically keep your mouth shut and just do what you're supposed to do. And just get over it as quick as possible. So we just followed rule, did what we had to do. And but no, nobody really refused. They make it pretty clear you don't have a choice. So, yeah.
How long was you at the reception center?
6 weeks.
So was your time at the reception center peaceful? Was it stuff that was making you worry about being away already? What's going on? Tell me about it.
Well, being disconnected from your family with no phone calls, waiting on the phone list, all of that, so you can actually call home, Of course, being a mom too, 6 weeks, not speaking to my daughter, mail's so far behind, you're not getting mail for a few weeks, you're sending letters home, you're getting no replies, so you have no idea what's going on. You're just completely separated from the world, it's a whole other world, and it's not such a good world. But they're pretty rough at the reception center to get you ready to go to your main compound or wherever you're going, with the rule book, so on and so forth, trying to get you prepared, I guess. spitting out all these crazy numbers and whatever for each rule and whatever. And if your bunk's not made correctly, they're tossing it and you're getting discipline, you're getting a CC or whatever. And just crazy, but at the same time, still sounds nuts, but to me, it was still better than county, even though I was going through all of this. I felt better off than I was in the county jail, because I guess the freedom or whatever, I was able to drink some normal drinks, a cold Coke, say, or whatever, but that's no perk to go to prison. But, I don't know, it's a rough world. I don't know, it's crazy. It's just definitely crazy, but, yeah.
So when we leave the reception the reception center, and we go to our main camp, where do we go?
Right across the street to Lowell.
What is it called?
Right across the street to Lowell.
Okay, what's that like?
Okay, Lowell is something serious. I was placed on the main compound. So within my first 2 days, they did job placement. Me being my first time ever in prison and, called the short timer, I figured I would be put in what they had called inside grounds or in the kitchen, something like that. But no, they had placed me as an orderly and I didn't even know what that meant. So they told me to wait after everybody had left so they could speak to me or myself. And I was like, okay. And they took me and a few other inmates into an office and told us our job placement. Mine was property. I had no idea what property even was, where they were. I didn't understand any of this. I was very confused. But I was like, okay, so this is my job placement. And I found it to be like, okay, when I get back, to my dorm, and I'm telling all, the people that's been there, of course, is asking like, well, what's your job placement, and I'm telling property, and some are saying, oh, oh, you're lucky, whatever, and then the old timers that are pissed that you were picked for property, and they had been there for say 12 years, 20 years, and here I am thinking, hey, I just want to sit here and do my time. That's it. I thought I was coming in here and I was going to sleep for the next, however many months, and I was going home. I was going to have to worry about this. So it became an issue of jealousy and then daily trying to find a way to get you fired for nothing whatsoever, but just because, that's your job placement.
I'm sure that created a few problems in there.
Yes, it did. I was fortunate for the officer and sergeant I did have, because they knew that I was doing so green to everything. So they kind of tried to keep me out of the dorm and more working as much as they could, because it seemed to always be a problem with my job placement. Somebody just starting an argument because of, whatever, something stupid because they wanted my job. Just something so dumb where, in all honesty, I would have gave it to them, but they wouldn't let me. If I did that, then I would end up in confinement. So I had no choice but to do what they wanted me to do.
Did you personally have any altercations while you was away?
Nothing more than verbal, really. As I said, I was fortunate for the officer and sergeant I had that I worked for. I worked a lot. So other than a few arguments over stuff to do with property and being around the same inmates constantly, not too bad. I stayed to myself pretty much the entire time.
For those that don't know, can you explain what working property means?
Yes. Okay. So, the main unit at Lowell, I worked in a warehouse that was split up by chain link fence, and it split up into 3 different sections, which was property, laundry or clothing, and the other was caustics. There was 1 inmate assigned to each area. So for property, whatever your people from home had sent you, like your mail, basically. I would have call outs and they would come and pick up their property, or I would send home property back home for them. A lot, really. I mean, basically do the officer's job for them, or the sergeant. I mean, you're the one that doesn't work. They just sit there. And also I had to do the intakes that came in, as well as the ones that would leave to go to another compound. I would have to get them ready to be shipped back out too. So that was also part of the job there.
What was your first encounter? Wait, before we get into that, was you in open bay or was you behind?
Yes, I was in open bay.
Open bay. So what was that like, sleeping around all those women?
Yeah, well,
You're not at summer camp.
Yeah. Being around that many women is something serious. I mean, there's so many different, I don't know. It's just, there's so many different types of people, not everybody's going to get along. People's going to try you to see how far they can push you, to see if they're able to see what they're able to get away with. If you're going to give in, or if you're going to stand your ground, or whatever it may be. And women are pretty catty anyway. So, yeah, I mean, bickering, arguing, the whole, it's really aggravating.
Were there a lot of gangs there?
There's a lot of what?
Gangs.
Gangs. In the women's prison, not as much as in males. It really seems different. My brother is in prison now, doing 8 years, and a lot of my friends also have been to prison. So whenever I speak to them and we share stories or experiences, it's way different. It seems like the males have a lot rougher of a time than the females do. I mean, we have a bad enough time with officers sleeping with females and them getting pregnant, and or them getting sexual favors for things to be around the compound, that sort of stuff. But for us females, it's like normal, as is for the males in the gangs. It just kind of like, I don't know, compensates, I guess, in a sense, if that's the issue there and that's the issue there.
So what kind of behavior was the CEOs giving y'all?
Well, it doesn't really matter what I think to them, but I believe they shouldn't have male guards, especially new male guards, and with a bunch of females, because females can be manipulating, and they're going to get what they want regardless. So, especially if it's a newer male officer, they're basically prey, and they're going to get their way, regardless of what it takes. So, and they give in easy, especially these females that's been locked down for a long time. They know what they're doing, and they get what they want, regardless if it's drugs or if it's makeup or whatever. Just basically whatever.
How long into your bid was it before you had an oh shit moment? Whether it be oh shit, something bad happened, or oh shit, they got drugs in here, oh shit, they got phones in here.
Not very long at all, really. It became almost like my duty because, here I'm an inmate, not an officer, I'm an inmate as well, even though I'm an orderly, So my officer and sergeant, whenever there'd be shakedowns, would be ones that would have to know. So I'd be one of the first inmates to know. So, of course, my duty would be to get back to the compound, or back to the dorm as soon as possible, to let them know, they're coming in, so that they could dispose of whatever they need to, or get it placed where it needed to be placed, or move to another dorm, so be it, or whatever needed to happen. Because if not, me knowing, you being one of the first people to know, and me not telling, them what's going on, of course, and what am I? I'm an officer, I wanted to be an officer. Yeah, so.
What was some of the craziest stuff you've seen in there as far as people getting high on?
Drugs as well, okay, and it seems like in the men's the worse as well. The women's, you see, it's a lot of pills, actually, pain pills, so on and so forth, because the male officers are able to bring them in easier. Cigarettes as well, but as for like the Tucci and there wasn't much of that. It was just like the more like easier things for them to get in. Because our stuff that came in was never from the inmates. It was always from the officers. Always.
Right. So what kind of stuff did you see in there? Like as far as drugs, like was it just
right? Well,
weed,
pills? Pills, mostly pills, a lot of pills, and cigarettes, cigarettes.
How much would a pill cost you inside there?
Oh my.
Compared to the streets?
Oh, already in the streets before I went in, pills were really high anyway, but they sell them differently in there. It's not like you get a whole pill. You're not getting a pill. Just like with a cigarette, you're not getting a cigarette, you're getting a piece of a cigarette. And I didn't get too mixed up, in the drug situation, whatever, but of course you overhear people talking, so on and so forth, that they know you keep your mouth shut, they're going to talk around you. So, and it's nuts. They mix pills and water, and they do it that way. It's totally different. It's not like on the street at all. And then they're paying like $20 for a little drop of water that has whatever substance mixed with it, or $10 for a tiny little piece of a cigarette that you would normally just throw out the window anyway. That's like the main drug issue in there, really, I would say, is that whole pill issue and cigarettes. The two worst. Men's prison is it's like so different, it seems so different. The stories I hear, whatever, there's like a lot of similarities, but at the same time, there's a lot of things that are way different.
How would you describe like the chemistry amongst the inmates? Like, is it divided? Is it whoever's cool is cool, or is it if you're white, you fuck with white people? If you're black, you fuck with the black people? How's that going on over there with females?
So we have to remember to talk about females, right? So, it's funny whenever you say that because it makes me think like high school almost, like other cool kids or like whatever. So it's basically like, and it's kind of sad really, but like who has what, that's the majority of it, because regardless of the color, if you have what somebody else doesn't want, they're going to be right there, and in your face and whatever to get what they need, regardless of what it be. I mean, I do remember my first day walking in, and immediately a girl of color had come in, and she just took my mat and like started fluffing my mat and making my bed, and I'm like, whoa, like, what are you doing? Like I can do that, but I was learning that like at that point she had seen that I had whatever I had. So she was doing whatever she could to make whatever she could. And so that's like the big thing. But yes, also I'm bi-color as well, I guess that's kind of where it goes everywhere. It's just kind of weird how that happens. It's like where they fit in, I still don't get it, why that is like that, but because, there was people that I spoke to, it wasn't all necessarily white people, but yet still, like, I guess that's where I was supposed to belong, even if, say, me and a black girl got along, it's like I wasn't supposed to be there, you know what I mean? I was supposed to be over here with these white people instead. It's just how it is. I don't know. It's crazy.
While you was away, what did you learn about yourself?
What did I learn about myself? Wow, that I had a lot of flaws. I had a lot to work on, a lot to get myself back. I didn't realize how much I had let the game, I guess, take over my life. And that, I was going to have to figure out what I was going to do, especially with having my daughter, an experience in it. I definitely didn't want her to ever have to experience anything like it. So, you know, just, I mean, a lot of things, my temper, my patience. Patience was a big one. I had no patience prior to prison. I now, you know, my patience, I've got a lot of patience compared to beforehand. It made me grow up. I thought I was grown. I was not grown. It made me a completely different person, really. It changed everything about me, I feel like. From just the way I acted to, it's just weird. It's hard to explain how I am, like, still to this day, like, large groups of people I don't like being in large groups of people. I'm a loner now. Like, I was never a loner. I was always like a social butterfly. I always was in trouble in high school for it, you know. And then whenever I came home, I was by myself, and that's how I wanted it. I wanted to be with myself. Even to this day, I find myself, you know, it's like, it's weird. It's like, I'm still the same way. Like, I don't really talk to anybody hardly at all. Social media maybe is like my biggest outlet, and I'm hardly even, you know, on there that much. It's like, I don't know, it changed me completely. I'm like a completely different person. It's weird. It like took my, I don't know, like it took me away. It's weird. It's like I'm not the same person. That's all. Don't know how to explain it.
How long did it take before you adjusted somewhat to the outside world when you came home? Because I know a lot changes, but...
Yeah, a lot changes. It's so fast. Well, I don't know, while. Months, I would say. And still, I would catch myself doing the same routines, you know. It's crazy. Routines I'd be stuck in prison. I'd be doing at home. It took me a long time to battle that and stop, you know, where I'd have to catch myself and be like, what are you doing? You know, it's not what you do. But I would say a good full year before I felt I was back, you know, to my normal. But there is no real normal after prison, I don't think. So, but as normal as I could get, I guess, I would say about a year.
What would you tell a little girl that's thinking about doing crazy stuff with her boyfriend? She's thinking about doing crazy stuff with her friends, doing parties now. I mean, what would you tell them?
It's crazy that you asked that. Just 3 or 4 days ago, I was back on the driveway, and a school bus had pulled up and dropped off these kids. And I was looking at these kids, and I was thinking to myself, if I could just go back, you know, if I could just go back to them, you know, it's like they had to be like middle schoolers or whatever when it really first starts happening. Puberty's kicking in, hormones are raging, and so on and so forth. And these little girls are walking with these boys, and so on and so forth. And I just kept thinking to myself, you know, I swear I would be the kid in the corner with a book. You know what I'm saying? The entire time. Like, that's what I would be doing. And to these kids, I guess it seems lame or whatever now, but I promise, like, in the end, it's worth it, you know, to be that doctor or to be, you know, that whatever it is, you know, that once upon a time before you become a teenager and have hormones and this and that, you want it to be. Because all that can wait. You have plenty of time for all of that. That all can wait. Definitely, you know, get all that other stuff under your belt before you even think of that stuff. You can do that anytime. You only get school one time, really. And you get to experience all that stuff, you know, not to miss any of it. Prom, any dances, any stupid little festival, any of that. I mean, experience it all, every bit of it.
If you were granted the power to make 3 changes to the prison system, what would it be?
Oh, boy. For it's a hard one because there's so many issues. I mean, the way I understand that you're there because you committed a crime and you did something wrong, you know, and I understand some crimes are worse than others, but I do understand also that we're all human beings as well. So for another human being to come in and I understand it's their job, they've been trained to do so, but to come in and act as if you're an animal entirely, just an animal. Especially say that even a self charge, and I'm not saying that's any different than, I mean, it is different, but like I said before, there's way worse charges, but these are things that even these people at one point in time have done, I'm sure, or drugs they've tried, or whatever it may be. So for them to act any different in that sense, like, I'm better than you and you're a piece of shit and this is what you're going to do, I mean, I'm not saying like they should, inmates should be treated as royalty and whatever, but at least somewhat of a human being, somewhat of a human being, and not to feel, I don't know, especially the women's, prison or whatever, with the whole male, it's a tough situation, and whenever I was at Lowell, a young lady was killed, and by an officer and a sergeant, she was kicked to death and put in confinement for her own safety, they said. That was in my dorm. So things like that as well. I mean, there's so much, I don't know. I can't narrow down three things. You know what I mean? I mean, I feel like it just needs to be taken and dumped upside down and shook around, and everything needs to be reevaluated. And maybe, somebody of a higher power to have to actually face it and see it for themselves. Just one day, 24 hours, and hell, an hour. 1 hour would even be great.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Man, I'm trying to get some barbecue, man. Listen, who got the best barbecue around, man? Because I really want the grills, man.
You tried the rest, but come taste the best. Big Chubby Barbecue and Southern flavor. You got the best barbecue in town, guaranteed. If you don't believe me, you need to come and see. You got the best ribs, best pulled pork, best chicken. Best believe that it's plain and liquid. And you can't forget about them Southern flavors. The macaroni baked beans are collard green.
Okay, take me back to the prison. What was the most trouble that you got into with the CO?
I really didn't get in much trouble. I stayed to myself the entire time. I had got a CC for my bed or whatever. Like I said before, I stayed working constantly and kept myself busy as possible the whole time I was there. So luckily for me, I knew to keep my mouth shut. I had already seen what happened. So I didn't want no part of any of it. I just wanted to get home. That's it. I just wanted to make it out. That's all.
And you said that the females, they have a very high influence on the guards, especially the new ones. Mm-hmm. Could you please give us a scenario that you may have seen of that happening? And what was the outcome of it?
Sure. It's crazy because it's like, especially at nighttime, there's not really any big wigs or whatever walking around really checking because they're probably sleeping somewhere in the office. While I was at Lowell, a lot happened. Our assistant warden was walked off the compound for having sexual relations with the inmates. So it went from that to going to the bathroom in the middle of the night and walking by the officer's bubble that divides. It's so hard to explain. There's a bubble that it divides two different sides. Say there's 60 inmates over here and 60 inmates over here, and there's one bubble with one officer. And you would be going to the bathroom at night or whatever, and you just know better than to look up into the bubble. It's best just to keep your head down and just go to the bathroom, because 9 times out of 10, they're going to have somebody in there and they're going to be doing whatever they're doing. If they're having oral sex or whatever may be happening, for that officer to bring whatever in to them the next day, or has already paid them their payment, I guess could say, even for makeup. I mean, whatever, just because these females just want a taste of the real world, they haven't had it in so long, and seen these, this color eyeshadow or something so simple just because we're females, it's nuts. And these officers, they take advantage of it entirely. It's sick. It's disgusting.
Is it more of the females coming after the officers or the officers going after the females?
It goes both ways.
Both ways.
Absolutely. It could be that a female inmate's wanting to see how far they can push the officer, to see what they can get him to do. And you would see crazy stuff. Even in, like the kitchen area, or where they kept the food or whatever in the, like the freezers, the walk-in freezers, or where they stored vegetables or whatever, with inmates and officers in there, having sex or whatever may be going on. And next thing you know, what's going on, but if you're smart as I was, you just keep your mouth shut and keep moving. And then it kind of just takes care of itself, because next thing you know, that guard or that officer is on perimeter and the female's been shipped off wherever to another compound. And then you find out she's pregnant, and then the majority of the time they're supposed to get rid of the officer. But I've seen it where officers were on perimeter forever, under investigation. But they're still getting paid basically to knock the van what they would be doing instead of being inside, having to deal with a bunch of screaming women. So it's not like they're really getting much discipline themselves.
Okay. Another thing about prison is how rowdy that they can be. Fights and things. What was the worst fight that you've seen inside of prison?
Let's see. There were a few locks, catty corner for me. I had a single bunk, and the bunk that was at the head of mine went to the corner. A girl had come up to another girl with a lock, and she was bent over her bed, folding clothes or whatever it may have been, and got her really good. Really, really good. She had broken this bone right here. Blood everywhere. And then I had seen where another female had stabbed another female in the neck with a pin. And that was probably my first week that had happened. Just craziness. Luckily, like I said, I worked so much, so luckily I wasn't around to it for any kind of jumping or, people getting too rowdy. But that was enough for me anyway. People being stabbed with pens and locks for what I don't even know, probably because she wouldn't loan her a pack of crackers.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. It's so petty, it's a lot. It's really petty.
Outside of working, could you explain to us what your daily routine was really like in prison?
My daily routine, just basically waking up, being in the dorm, hoping that we would have canteen and rec. And other than that, reading. That's what I did. I just read, and wrote my letters or whatever, say like on the weekends when I was off. Usually the majority, will always have like that one person that they talk to, there's one female that I talked to and I had cooked with and whatever, and that was basically it. It's crazy. I don't know. It's just like wake up, make your bed, if you're gonna read, you're gonna read, or if they call rec, they're gonna call rec. And if you get canteen, you get canteen, or you wait in the phone line for hours to call home, and then do it all over again the next day. That's like the typical weekend. Really, we don't really gamble much, stuff like that. You don't see too much of that. That's basically it. Not a whole lot, going on. Maybe some females flirting with some guards, just the basic crazy prison stuff. I guess I was pretty lame in prison. For a good reason, I'm here, I'm still alive, so.
Okay, so at this point, I want to give you some time to promote your business, if you would like to, and wrap up the video for us.
Okay, yes. My business is called My Random World, and I sell random items. And that's about that, I guess. It's still pretty new. And anyways, other than that, I don't know. Be good, guys, and try your best to not catch any kind of crazy charges and just stay out of the cops' eyes. And yeah, that's about that, I guess. That's it. What is it? Let's just say something else.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us on the Culture Society Universe.
Thank you.
Signing out.
I'm like, what? What am I supposed to say again at the end? I freaking